Hello all. This is our stakeholder presentation. It is by Joshua Adams, Ramere Smith, and Skylar Thomas. Let's go ahead and jump in. So today we have two problems to discuss. This will be our first problem. We have here defining the business needs. Analytics can be targeted toward the entire business or broken into various parts. Therefore, it's important to define and approach the goals and/or problems of the business organization. Business needs to be cut down on non-emergency visits because it cuts down on available manpower. It's more costly than office and urgent care visits, which then the ER can't recoup because the patients are generally poor and insured. Moving on, we have defining the business needs continued. Non-emergency visits are defined as those visits where a delay of several hours would not increase the likelihood of adverse effects and could be seen in retail pharmacies, primary care providers, and urgent care centers. Next, we have explore the data. Initial data analysis involves looking for missing data, outliers, mistakes such as incorrect dates or transposed numbers. In the hospital data set, we're looking for incorrect data, transposed numbers, an emergency visit by greater than the total number of visits. Now, analyze the data. Data is compared, reduced, grouped, and manipulated to grab insights and predictions depending on what the objective is. This is done in part by techniques like correlation analysis. In the dataset, we group by months, ages, gender, and date to see if there's a correlation between percentage of non-emergency visits and any of those demographics. Here we have a table. This table shows the percentage of ER visits that are not emergencies. Keep in mind, this is for the year of 2019. So what we have here is on the left-hand side, it shows the row labels. These are each individual month for the year of 2019, January through December. And on the right-hand side, we have the average of percentage. Keep in mind again, this is the percentage of ER visits that are not emergencies. So we see ER visits that are not emergencies almost account for nearly half of ER visits itself. That's pretty much for each month that we're seeing here. So next what we did, we took that information and we put it into some graphs to visually see and understand what's going on. The top here on right side, we see average percentage. And that's directly correlated with that table. We see January through December, again, through the year of 2019. January and February were actually the highest months in which we see over 44% of those ER visits not actually being emergencies. And then in September here, we have the lowest, which was just under 40% of visits, still high. Then on the left-hand side, we broke this down even more. And in our key we have here, the blue represents sum of number of emergency visits, and then in the orange, it's sum of number of visits in general. As we can see, blue is definitely lower than the orange. Blue is those emergency room visits. Orange is just those visits in general that are not even emergencies. They're just coming in. So we can see that that's really, really high here. Moving forward, we also broke that down even more. We broke it down into demographics. That was by female and male. As we can see in this one, is that females are going to the ER and having these types of non-emergency related visits, more over than the males. Going back to that left-hand side, I did want to mention that that does depict the age. As we can see in the bottom, it's 1 to 18, 19 to 36, 37 to 54, 55 to 72, 73 to 90, 91 to 108. I also wanted to add with that is that we can see each individual category what age group is going into that emergency room, not exactly it being an emergency, the highest being around that 73 to 90 range where we're more fragile. Next, predict what is likely to happen. After looking at the results, business experts and data scientists look at the models to find patterns and other insights that reveal correlations and indicated variables. For example, the data may show an uptick in non emergency visits during winter months or parents with an abundance of concern for their young children. Non optimizing. After approval and a validation of an analytical model, predictive models and trend analysis are used to explore what if conditions, trying to find the best path within the parameters given by the business unit. Options that may produce the desired result of reducing non emergency visits are to partner with urgent care centers for better accessibility and capacity with location and hours, to educate patients on the ERs and R and aren'ts that are needed, and also utilizing telemedicine. Now we have making a decision and measuring the outcome. Analysts finalize decisions and courses of actions based on conclusions obtained from various analytics models. During the observation period, favorable and unfavorable consequences are measured. Update the system with the results of the decision. The decision, action, and outcome conclusions are documented and updated. Questions are asked like, was the decision impactful, or what was the ROI of the decision? For this, we were asking if number of percentage of non-emergency ER visits went down after the solution, our recommendation, was implemented. In the following charts, we can see that we reduced non-emergency ER visits by over 50%. So again, this is going to show the percentage of ER visits that are not emergencies. And this is for the year of 2020. The graphs here show, just as in 2019, the average percentage, which remember, January and February were our highest months. And just as stated previously, that dropped by nearly half here. Now, following through, it's January through December of 2020, we see that that drop has occurred in every single month. Moving over to the left, the age column, we see that that is decreased as well. And then moving over to the gender column by female and male, we see that that is decreased also. Next, we're going to discuss our problem number 2. Defining the business need. Global healthcare today is facing a clinician storage crisis. The World Health Organization estimates there will be a worldwide shortage of around 18 million, more than 1 in 5 of people that we really need. The business needs to be better patient forecast and scheduling systems in order to optimize and improve patient care and curbside staffing costs. Staffing accounts for over 50% of an average hospital's costs. Too little staff can significantly impact the quality care and patient experience, while too much staff can jeopardize a hospital's financial viability. The business needs to find their equilibrium. Now, in exploring the data. For the healthcare facility, hospital data was taken from a busy cardiac unit. In this unit, nurses usually are asked to monitor 5 patients on average daily. That's their equilibrium. The information found shows results on the 30th of each month throughout the year. In another set of data, a randomly selected month is analyzed further to show any inaccuracies in the data itself, checking for omissions, outliers, and mistakes. The process the company should have taken to acquire the data would have been gathering the data, discovering and assessing the data, cleansing and validating the data, which we believe the company did not review the data effectively to not only discover the errors, but also fixing them before storing that data. This would have ensured correct information was stored. After that, transforming and enriching that data, and then of course, storing the data. Predicting what is likely to happen. Traditionally, nurses' work schedules were based best guessed weeks in advance, and leadership speculations during a shift. This approach had made it hard to know how many nurses were actually needed to ensure a hospital was as running efficiently as possible. So, our prediction. After reviewing, we predict that when analyzing a month and the year, more days than none, there will be not enough nurses available to care for the patients efficiently as possible. Prediction based on descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. Descriptive analysis. It describes data in a way that is understandable to humans. Using Excel, data will be analyzed to better understand staffing, as previously understood. Too little staffing can result in less efficient patient care. This can be also reflected through overall patient survey responses at the end of each given month. Predictive analytics, that helps companies make sense of potential outcomes or future repercussions of any decision made. Based upon the health agency's finance at the end of the month, they can determine how many more staff members they are able to add per day. Non-prescriptive analytics. That is basically the best course of action given the data that is available. It uses both that descriptive analytics and predictive analytics to predict not only what will happen, but why it will happen. Scheduling softwares can compare in a matter of minutes how many patients came in and how much staff was available at that specific minute. Analyze the data. Now, knowing what we do about negative and positive effects pertaining to patient forecasts and scheduling, looking at how many patients in a given day compared to the amount of staffing, to analyze the data, we needed to define our question, set measurement priorities, collect data, and then analyze that data. So here's our results. This is for the year of 2020. Here we can see it's just half of the year, January through June. That's what we see on that months column, and then we have number of patients, number of nurses, and then patient surveys all by per day as depicted in that key. So taking an example of January, and noting previously is that nurses at the hospital's equilibrium takes in on average 5 patients per nurse. If we do the math from the 586 to the 122, that does not equal out to 5 patients per nurse, meaning that each patient was not getting the effective, efficient care that they deserved, which of course resulted in that no survey. The only months where we see yes is April and May, but predominantly this was no. Moving forward, we wanted to even be more specific. So results continued, we took the month of March. Again, from the middle, we took March 1st through March 15th, the middle of the month. And we took number of patients, number of nurses, patient surveys, again per day, as depicted in that key. And we wanted to see very, very specifically if there was inaccuracies in the staffing compared to the number of patients that were in that day. So on March 1st, we see that there were 16 patients in and 2 nurses. Again, knowing that one nurse can take 5 patients at its equilibrium, that's 10, which leaves 6. That's 6 patients who didn't have that efficient care, and that's what's leading to those no's in regards to patients feel that they were not cared for that given day. That pretty much rings true throughout the entire month, or half a month that we have depicted here. The only yeses, of course, that we see are on the 4th and the 5th. Now, results explain. There's going to be a little bit of what we explained before, but moreover, in the first data table, the results it shows for 6 months, the total number of nurses and patients. Knowing that the hospital has an equilibrium at 5 patients per nurse, we can see that the data, this was not the case, which led to less patients feeling cared for and depicted through the overall survey results. In the second, in the second table, it shows 1 month that was dissected. We see the majority of days the hospital was understaffed, and this resulted in either bad and good surveys. Now, in optimizing, I recommend a change in the way patient forecast and scheduling is done for the healthcare facility. The facility has shown to not effectively cleanse data for errors before storing it, also not correctly analyzing data to find reasoning related to jeopardizing a hospital's financial viability. There's a big need for businesses to balance between the amount of nurses scheduled related to customer satisfaction and hospital expenses. The first step would be rationalizing how many nurses are needed. We believe that the current methods to predict based on the number of beds only lead to a higher staffing costs and dissatisfied staff. This healthcare agency, on average, again utilizes one nurse to 5 patients on a cardiac unit. Keep that in mind. So optimization continued. We recommend that models that predict the inflow of patients at a more granular level will help this company by using hour of day, days of week, and even month of year. And how we can ensure access is by using simulations. Simulation models for patient arrivals, acuity, or treatment needs. Simulation models that run various patient arrivals and estimate wait times for each scenario, which can provide a more accurate staffing demonstration. This information can optimize models that allow the healthcare agency to meet its expense and wait time targets. Additionally, ability to generate simulations and incorporate hospital targets and metrics, this would calculate the optimum number of nurses for each defined block of time. Next we have here, after our recommendations were implemented by this company in the year of 2021, make the decisions and measure the outcome. We have, again, March, and we have that halfway point, March 1st through March 15th. And instead of measuring by the beds and number of patients, they went ahead and did it granularly by the time. So by a certain time, how many nurses were needed on staff at that time. So we have number of patients at 3 p.m. We have number of nurses at 3 p.m. We have the patient surveys, again, per day, as depicted by that key. So if we take example again, March 1st of 2021, we can see at 3 p.m. there was 15 patients. So there was a need for at least 4 nurses on staff at 3 p.m., which was successful. As we understand, 5 is their equilibrium per nurse. 4 times 5 is 20, which is well over enough, and that resulted in a positive survey where the patients felt cared for. And that ran true for most of the month. The only months where we saw no was the 5th, the 12th, and the 13th. Update the system with the results of the decision. Using different types of analytic techniques, descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive, we were able to gather adequate data to support our claim for a need to change. Also, this aided in giving recommendations of change. Here are the results. After adjustments, a balance was noticed between the amount of patients that have come in and the amount of nurses scheduled in a given day. Also, surveys showed that patients felt cared for during their duration of this day. And then lastly, adjustments additionally ensured financial viability. So here are all of our references that we used throughout this presentation. This is page 1, and then we have a page 2. We really thank you for your time and listening. We put a lot of work in this. We want you to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.